everybody, to our Zui. And I just want to acknowledge all of us that are staying in lockdown. I'm in a beautiful place called Mataara, which is where I live. And it's a great day when the Wi-Fi holds. So the lockdown struggles are real. And e mihi ana kia tātou, I really want to acknowledge you all for taking the time to come and just have a listen and actually to ask questions, to whakawhiti korero, like Liz said. Usually we prefer to have it face to face, engari, he runga ngā ahutanga o te wā, because of our situation. This is the next best thing. So hoi anō mihi ana kia tātou. So just as Liz is talking about the vaccination rollout, one of the campaigns we started early on in the program was known as Hoki ki ngā tūāpapa. What became apparent in the last sort of lockdown and following the last lockdown, when we started to come out of that, the lockdown into the lower levels, was there was, I guess, a bit of people relaxing. But also what we noticed was when we got a case that happened in Taitokero, the level of anxiety just shot up, went straight back up. And what we saw as a result of that anxiety was either people became super concerned and really to the point of feeling really unsafe, or were so anxious in the other way that they became quite apathetic. And this is what I noticed in lots of conversations in the communities that I live in, and just lots of different conversations. And so before we decided to roll out the vaccination, knowing what a contentious topic it can be, we started to think about what else could we do to go along, hei koetahi, to walk alongside this kaupapa of vaccination. And so we started to think about how might we refresh the messages, how might we refashion them even. And because a lot of the anxiety I felt was coming from a place of, because we didn't have a process in place, now we're freaking out because we don't know what we're supposed to do. And that sense of losing control, of not having control over something, creates really a sense of feeling unsafe. So we really wanted to bring that back, bring that sense of control back. So the Hoki ki ngā tūāpapa really talks about going back to the basics. Hoki ki ngā tūāpapa, go back to that foundational practices that we know actually make a difference. So those are things, and I'll talk a little bit about what those are in a minute. So the idea was to create some information, to provide some resources to our communities, to our kaimahi, around other practices that help to nurture well-being. Because one of the things we learned in the last lockdown is actually there are lots of things we can do that we absolutely have control over that can help to contribute to our well-being. And so we provide in Hoki ki ngā tūāpapa some of the practices, but actually understand that there's more than the 6 we're going to talk about. That actually, when we're talking about practices that nurture well-being, we're also including whānau practices, which might be, here in this lockdown, some of the whānau practices of well-being are lots of Kahoot quizzes going on at the moment, lots of whānau reconnecting. And one of my whanaunga records that lockdown is the best time because they connect more with whānau than they do when they're not in lockdown. So there's lots of practices we actually have that absolutely nurture our well-being. So we decided to just focus on 6, but there are more than that. Well, there are more than that we know each whānau has. So ngā tātai ihorangi, I just want to talk quickly. You see that brand in the top corner there? It's a program of work that's been going on in the DHB that I've led for a couple of years now. And really it just talks about how we might always affirm and support this notion of well-being and actually nurturing those practices. So that became the platform for which we created our Hoki ki ngā tūāpapa campaign on. And really its intention was supporting whānau to feel to take back the control, actually, take back the control from COVID, take back that control for their own oranga, because actually they're the experts in their oranga. So to help protect whānau from spreading COVID-19, but also actually to help prevent the spread of other viruses. What we saw was in the last lockdown and following, when we had some of these practices in place, the number of flu reduced dramatically. The number of other viruses and other common ailments, especially for tamariki, reduced phenomenally. So when we think about now, we're back in a time really where there's an increased anxiety and a lot of chaos. It's important to provide a space such as these that actually brings us back to a space of balance. So as I talked about, when the anxiety flares, we either go up into the super vigilant and fearful, or we drop into the state of apathy where we think, oh, well, we've got no control over what's going on. We may as well do nothing. It's too much. So bringing us back to a space of balance is about actually reinstating that you have control over your oranga. Once we're in a space where we actually feel at peace with that, we're able to then hear what's being said. So what we know is when we have to consider important decisions, when we have to make important decisions, we actually have to first be in that state where we're absolutely open to hearing the information. Because one of the things we know is when we're in a state of anxiety, we actually make decisions based on all the noise that's happening around us. But in order for us to actually consider what's good for me and my whānau, what's the decision that I want to make and be happy with for me and my whānau, you actually have to be in a place where you can take the information and start to put it into an order that makes sense to you and your core values. So we absolutely promote vaccination, but we promote it as a choice. We promote it as one choice, as one way to protect our whānau and our whakapapa. And that actually there are other, so immunisation or the vaccination is one way, but we also have other things that we can do that we absolutely have total control over that also contributes to preventing COVID-19 and its spread. And so one of the things is hand washing. And so going back to the basics means going back to hand washing, hand washing, staying at home when you're unwell, going for a COVID test if you have symptoms. And I think this is really important that we build this as a way of being taking back that control, and that actually it's safe. So we've done a lot of work around encouraging whānau not to be fearful of getting that test, because some whānau were expressing they're scared to get the test. They might come back positive and then get hated on, but we absolutely encourage whānau that actually a part of being in control of your well-being is absolutely going in to get a test. We talk about keeping track of where you've been. So you using either the COVID-19 Tracer app. If you don't use the app, you don't want to use the app. I know whanaunga that just take pictures of the QR codes. I know some whānau that just have a diary and they just jot down a list of where they've been. So there are many ways. It's really just keeping a record of where you've been, just so that you know where the places that you've been and visited. Coughing into your elbow is one that kids are awesome. Kids are just awesome. When you teach them this practice, they do it all the time. Adults are the ones that need to be taught again. But coughing into your elbow just helps to limit the spread of all those droplets. So really, these are the practices that we talk about, that we promote in the Back to Basics and the Hoki ngā tūāpapa campaign. And these really do help to ensure that we're protecting ourselves from that COVID-19 and its spread. And if whānau decide not to vaccinate, which is absolutely their choice, that they make that choice with all the information available and they stand in that decision. but also knowing that these are some of the other practices that can help to continue and nurture that well-being for them and their whānau. And having the ability to make that choice is really about supporting whānau to take back that control of their oranga, because as I said, they're the experts and they actually know what oranga for their whānau looks like. So just as I said, these are the 6 main practices that we promote in this kaupapa, Hoki ki ngā tūāpapa. But I say that it's not limited to these. These are just some of the 6. We couldn't put all 100 on there. So we decided to narrow it down to the 6, because what we know is these are really effective ways of helping to protect our whānau, protect our whanaunga against COVID-19. And so we developed a whole lot of media collateral around these messages, and you may have already heard them on the radio. You may have already seen them on the Facebook threads. But these are our messages, and one of the main things we decided to do was keep the messages quite short and concise, so that actually we can build a common operating language. So the ngā tātou ihorangi is the platform, but the messages of Hoki ki ngā tūāpapa becomes our common operating language. So my hope and our hope is that whenever you engage in any services that are supporting the COVID-19 program of work, that you'll hear a repeated message, because what we understand is we all have to be speaking in the same way to reduce the noise, to reduce the confusion that's already out there. So I just want to talk a little bit about these messages. So you can see the top there, me whakapapa te ora. So whakapapa te ora, we talk about, let's change the narrative. Let's do things in a way that actually promotes well-being. So whakapapa, as you know, is about all of those whānau traits that are passed down to you. Whakapapa is also your life's narrative or your life's journey. Whakapapa also talks about your responsibility to the generations that are coming next. So our hope is that we put into place some of these practices now. It's actually for the betterment of our tamariki that aren't even thought of yet, so that when they're born into this world, that actually they come into a safe, hopefully COVID-free environment. So whakapapa talks about all that was, but all that is. So me whakapapa te ora talks about promoting wellness. Hoki ki ngā tūāpapa, connecting back to the practices that nurture well-being. So we started with the mōhio koe, and those of you that have tamariki know that 1,000, and probably know it even more now in lockdown, that you'll hear this 1,000 times from your kids. I mōhio koe, did you know? Because they're so clever. So I know mine definitely use this a lot. It's really just saying, did you know that washing your hands for 20 seconds helps stop the spread of disease? So just in that, it just keeps it simple. Why would, I know the message is wash your hands, but it's really just to expand it a little bit so that you know. So kia mōhio koe, why we say washing your hands is important and how to do it. And so you can see that ad there, apply enough soap to cover wet hands, get in between fingers, under nails for 20 seconds, rinse with water and dry thoroughly. And this is just one way. So again, we talk about there's more than these, but this is just one way to protect ourselves from COVID-19. Kia pū mau te ora, that's the main point of these messages. Kia pū mau te ora, to maintain well-being. So you will see that we have 6 messages up here, but they follow the same format. If you look at Haritunu, this is about the Trace app. Again, it's the same message again. Can we go to the next one? So this one is about, so we just had a brief korero about this. So this talks about if you have symptoms, because we know that flu-like symptoms are very similar to the COVID-19 symptoms, and we totally encourage that whānau make contact with Healthline or their GP to organise a test and this is one way to look after themselves and their whānau. We encourage they stay at home after that test, and these messages are reiterated also by our Ministry of Health. And this one just further expands it to really support that notion that if you are sick, it's actually better to just stay at home, and it helps to stop the spread of illnesses, and actually you get better quicker. And the coughing and sneezing etiquette, this is a great one to teach tamariki, and tamariki are the best at reminding the adults about how to sneeze and cough into their elbows. And actually, by doing that, we actually become kaitiaki for the whānau. And when we talk about whānau, we don't limit it to our whānau, immediate whānau, but we're talking about all our whanaunga, inclusive of all of that. Ka pai. And so these are some of the animations that we developed. So what you saw, we have we did a series of workshops. We've done the radio ads, which you've just seen, and these are our animations, the same messages, just framed up, refashioned in a different way, but it follows the same script. And I think, are you going to play one, Liz?
I realise actually you won't be able to hear it, but I can play it. It's just 30 seconds. Shall we go for that?
Yeah, all right. Is it going to work?
You'll notice this snapper fishing and hole in the rock.
Can you guys see it? No, we can't see it. You have to share it, I think.
I'm so sorry. Okay, I don't know. I'm sorry, I won't. I'll share them after the workshop. Apologies.
Ka pai. So can we just go back to the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can. Where is it?
So like Liz said, she'll share these. This can be downloaded and shared. It does follow the same script as what we've gone through with the radio ads. So like I said, we've been really intentional about keeping the messages consistent. And so our animations absolutely share the same messages. So I just want to finish off here by just saying that Hoki ki ngā tūāpapa is really about going back to the basics, taking back the control around and reconnecting with those practices that nurture well-being. And what we know is that when we feel in control, or when we feel like we have choices that we can make, it absolutely supports us to feel a lot more, to feel safer. So we really do promote this kaupapa alongside with the vaccination rollout, that whānau absolutely have the choice, but these are also practices that we can put into place to help protect our whānau from COVID-19. Build up.
Kia ora. Does anybody have any questions for Koha at this time? No, we're all good, but you're welcome to ask any other, if something pops into your head. Yep. So now I'd like to introduce Rita from IMAC.
Kia ora, thanks Liz. Welcome. Thank you for having me on your Zoom meeting today. This will be just some information about the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm going to share my screen here so we can start there. Thank you. So my name is Rita Miller. I am the education facilitator in the COVID world for the Immunisation Advisory Centre. So I've been working for IMAC for a couple of years now and recently moved up to Whangarei. So I've got a very soft spot now for Northland. This is my family, my world up here. So yeah, I love being up here. So I'm originally from South Africa, as you can hear from the accent. Been in New Zealand for about 12 years. I've got 3 children. One was born here, my little girl, and it's today her 10th birthday, which is exciting for her, but also not as exciting because her gift cannot be dispatched until we are in level 3. So she's getting a few replacement gifts from the warehouse today. So I work for the Immunisation Advisory Centre, and our aim is to provide information that is scientifically based, and we try to do that in a non-judgmental way, making sure that people understand the risks and the benefits about vaccines and diseases. And that is what I would like to talk to you about today. So welcome. I hope you enjoy this session. So during this session, I'm going to touch on how the vaccine works, what is in the vaccine, our vaccine safety, the cautions that we need to take with the vaccine, and then just briefly going to go over our strategy and the CIR, or the COVID immunization register. And I'm sure Liz is going to give us some time at the end of this presentation to do some questions. So first of all, it's very important that we understand how the vaccine works. This vaccine is made from the mRNA, or genetic material. This is the little blueprint or the recipe to make this spike protein in our body, so our bodies can identify it as foreign and build up an immunity around that. So when this recipe, this mRNA, is injected into our bodies, our muscle cells will then produce this viral protein, which will then be recognized as foreign, and then the immune response gets stimulated, where we will get our antibodies, our T cells, and at the end of the day, we are left with a whole army full of antibodies that will circulate our bodies for a wee while, and then we end up with memory cells. So when we are in touch with the real virus, then our body's already got the recipe how to make more antibodies for us to give us some protection against this. So just basically putting it down in words. So the messenger mRNA is the template that our body needs to make this protein. It is delivered in a little bit of a fat capsule, so a little bit of a fat bubble. That's where the mRNA sits. And it makes it easier then to be injected into our bodies for our bodies to start making this spike protein. And it's really important that we build up this immunity before we get in contact with the real virus, so we can have a real fast response to be on top of this virus, so we are most probably not going to get as sick. Now, just before I move on to the next couple of slides of how fast it's been produced, etc., it's very important to remember that our vaccine, as Koha has said, is part of our plan. You know, it's not the answer to our problems. It's one of the things that we can do to prevent severe disease. It's not going to stop us from getting disease. It's going to give us protection 90 to 95% if you had your 2 doses for symptomatic disease. And that's something that I've been come across really good the past couple of weeks as I've been vaccinating in the vaccination centers, is our people understanding that this is not the answer. It doesn't mean that if I had my 2 doses or my 2 jabs that I am, you know, I'm going to be protected against this, I will not get disease. Our understanding is I'm taking this so I don't get as sick. So with me, I'm going to protect my family because I won't get as sick. I won't be able to spread it as much as somebody who didn't get the vaccine, who's got the whole signs and symptoms, coughing, sneezing, etc. It's really just reducing that load. So vaccination, washing our hands, staying home, scanning in, all those things, they just all forms, you know, our protection for this disease. We've had quite a few questions of, you know, how did it happen that we've made this vaccine so fast? No, basically, this vaccine has been in the making for, you know, a couple of years, not specific COVID, but the mRNA part of the vaccine. Back in 2012, when we had the MERS and the SARS outbreak, some scientists had to look at how can we make a vaccine by using the spike proteins without using the virus. So we want to use something, but not the virus. So as you know, we get we get the MERS, the SARS, we get some other coronaviruses. So COVID is not very unique as a coronavirus. We had some in the past as well. So these people were working on this spike protein, this mRNA, to see how they can produce a vaccine that can protect us against these viruses. And because it's such a gentle or fragile kind of thing, it did take them quite a while to figure out how to use it. They've made a few tweaks, tried to see how it goes, and then, you know, things didn't work as well, and they need to change a few things in the process. And then they got to the answer of how to use mRNA as a, you know, as part of a vaccine. But by then, when they had all these answers, we had no SARS or MERS, and people, you know, it wasn't important enough to continue with this kind of this technology. So they put it, you know, in the back burner for a wee while because, you know, we didn't see it, so we didn't need to work too much on that. So when we started seeing this outbreak of COVID-19, these people got really interested in looking at what has, you know, what's going on. And as soon as they've got the sequencing being shared on the net from China about this, the virus, they immediately jumped to action and they started working on how can we use our already known technology to work for a vaccine like this. And they had this down in a very fine art, very fast. So the vaccine in making is already about 10 years old. To put it in with our specific COVID-19, not that old, but we've already got that information for a while. So a lot of funding has gone into that. Very big, clever people were sitting around trying to see how can we do something, what can we do to make sure that we can get the world protected. In the past, when we've got a new vaccine coming, it does run into a couple of steps. Like you can see, we usually have the preclinical, and then we have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And with all these things, after each part, you know, people had to go and review everything, see what's been going on, restart it, or, you know, whatever. But with this one, we run these phases, you know, with each other. So people started building plants to make vaccines even before we've got the approval to go ahead with some of these vaccines. I think if we had a different kind of virus, not COVID-19, that caused an outbreak, we would have been in a different situation today. But because of the funding, clever people, and already some technology that was developed in the past, we are where we are at this stage. When we do these kind of phases as well, you know, when they start with their phase 1 trials, they look at how safe is this vaccine. If we're going to give somebody this medicine, this vaccine, is it safe? So they're looking at very small numbers. Then they start moving on to phase 2, where they're looking at, is it safe and how effective is it? Does it work? Now, remember, in these kind of sessions or these phases, the people that they use for these are a very selective kind of group of people. They are, I always like to, you know, have a little bit of fun of this, but this is the people with a very healthy BMI, very healthy person. They usually have to be under a certain age, have got no other diseases, don't have to take medication, is fit. And then when we start looking in phase 3, we are looking at how does this work in the real world? How does this work with elderly people, with young people, with people who don't have that amazing good BMI, you know, the skinny person? How does this look in the real world where people do have comorbidities and diseases and stuff? And what we've seen is things look really, really good. Yes, vaccines are medication, and with medication comes the side effects as well. And that's what's very important, that we remember those as well. So looking at our vaccine itself, the community vaccine, it's got a few different names, which is a little bit confusing. The media calls it the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. The brand name is Community. It's got some numbers here. And our immunization handbook talks about community vaccine as well. It's a tiny little vaccine here. So this vaccine that you see here is about 0.45 mils that gets mixed with some saline. And then we can draw up, depending on the type of needle that we use, we can get 6 to 7 doses out of this tiny little vial of vaccine. So this one vaccine can, you know, start with this process for about 6 to 7 people, which is quite amazing. So what is in the vaccine? Basically in the vaccine is this little recipe here, the mRNA, which is surrounded with a fat bubble. There's bits of sugar in there to keep it at those, you know, to keep it still working at those very cold temperatures when it's frozen, and then some salts. So that's it. That's all that is in our vaccine. It's not a live vaccine, so it cannot cause COVID-19 disease. It cannot enter our cell's DNA and changes that. It does not contain any protein, animal products, antibiotics, eggs, nothing. This is really what it has in it. And that's why such a small group of people you know, will react and have an anaphylactic reaction to the vaccine, because there's not much in it. Most probably, if they do have an anaphylaxis, it will most probably be because of the fat that they are using in this. But like I said, no animal products, are quite safe for most people. This is one of the most gentle vaccines at this stage, COVID-19 vaccines, because most people can have it. Doesn't matter whether you are immune compromised or you are going through cancer treatment or anything like that. Most people can have it. We will go through the who cannot have the vaccine in a little while. So at this stage, we are administering 2 doses. It's intramuscular, so in the arm. The minimum is 21 days, but we have recently moved it out that you can have your vaccine. We would prefer it 6 weeks intervals. It just showed with data that we've seen, you know, if you prolong that second dose, having it a bit later, that you have a better immune response with that, but not shorter than the 3 weeks. As I said, up here, we said 5 to 6 doses. This is before we started using the LDS needles, the needles that will reduce the dose or the amount of vaccine that's left into the syringe at the end. With our new needles, we get about 6 to 7 doses. It's mixed with normal saline, and the amount of vaccine that we actually injected is 0.3 milliliters. So it's really, really little, a very small amount of vaccine. Our normal vaccines is usually 0.5, so this is 0.3, and it's quite potent. So how effective is this vaccine? So from what we've seen so far, we get about 90 to 95 effectiveness against, and this is the important word, symptomatic COVID-19 disease. So most people who get the vaccine, if they are getting in contact with COVID-19 disease and they end up having the disease, they will be less sick. The chances of them being admitted in hospital or dying from the disease is so much more reduced. Most people who get disease will be asymptomatic, meaning that they won't be coughing and sneezing, and if you don't do those things, then obviously you can't spread the disease. We are now vaccinating. Sorry, I haven't changed this. This one slipped my mind. We are now vaccinating from the age of 12, been starting a couple of weeks ago now. So we've seen quite a few young people coming in for the vaccine. So they need to be 12 years old and older to come and have the vaccine. We are also recommending it for pregnant women at the moment and breastfeeding women. We have a couple of studies already coming through that talks about the safety for that, and everything looks really well. So the clinical trials, like I said, the real world data shows that our vaccine is quite safe. The data is reviewed by independent safety data monitoring board. So nobody is connected to those. They are really independent and doing things by, solely by themselves. And it's generally well tolerated across all age groups. The most things that we get is the localized reactions 1 or 2 days after vaccination. So a lot of people will say, oh, I had a really sore arm. Some people do experience some other signs and symptoms that we will go over. But at this stage, there's no serious safety concerns. And the adverse events will be followed for 2 years. So all people who participated in this trials, we will follow them up for 2 years to see how things are going with them. So from the United States, and this data, so this was on the 3rd of August, as you can see, almost 400 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine has been given. So we've got big doses that's been delivered, so we can see what's happening in the real world. And with this kind of vaccine, the safety has been monitoring throughout, and what they've seen is that this is quite consistent with the clinical trials. With such a huge amount of vaccines given, this is how we will pick up on the rare side effects of vaccines. As you will have heard about our myocarditis, that's a side effect that we do get for, when we get this vaccine, and I will talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. Anaphylaxis has been reported. So anaphylaxis is a specific slide on itself. Like all medication, we can expect to have some people who will have an allergic reaction to it. So we will go through who cannot have this vaccine. With people who fell pregnant unexpected, when they sign up for these kind of trials, people usually sign a form saying that I will not become pregnant while I'm on this trial. And there's always a couple of people who do fall pregnant. So if that happened, we continue monitoring them. And what we've seen with them is that there was no safety concerns for mum or for baby. So even though they did say, I will not, and they did, it does help us looking forward to see if there's any problems going forward. And the safety monitoring is going on worldwide. Okay. Expected responses. So as you know, when we all receive a vaccine, we are expecting to see some things. And things that you can think of is like the pain at the injection site. Some people will experience a bit of a fever. Some people do feel a little bit like coming down with a cold or flu-like symptoms. That's all expected responses. It's important that we tell people about that so that they know what is expected and what is not expected. So it's important that we can differentiate between an adverse event and vaccine reactions. Now, a vaccine reaction is not something that we like to have, but we know that if you get it, it's most probably because you had your vaccine. You have a sore arm, you had a vaccine. That's the immune response. I have a slight fever. That's because of your immune response. So it's not nice to go through those things, but we expect to see that. An adverse event is when something happens with you after you had a vaccine, and it may or may not be caused by the vaccine. But I always say it's not for us to decide on those things. If something happens after you received your vaccine, report it so we can have a look and determine whether this is because of the vaccine or was it just coincidental. The most things that we do see after after injections, as you can see, is the headaches, the dizziness, nausea. These are the most common things that we do see. And obviously the different ages will report them differently. These the vaccines that we see, the pain, the injection site pain, the fever, these are all signs that our immune system is responding, giving us, you know, the feeling of, yeah, it's working. That's why we will sometimes get swollen glands as well, because your antibodies is growing, giving you the protection that we need. Before I'm going to talk about anaphylaxis, I haven't made a slide for myocarditis, but I think we should talk about it because it was in the news that we've lost a person yesterday with myocarditis that they are thinking has been caused by the vaccine. Now, I just want to reassure you that the risk of myocarditis is much, much greater to get if you get COVID-19 disease. It's a side effect that we have picked up, especially with our younger males under the age of 30 with the second dose. We have picked up a couple of people who did get myocarditis after they had their second dose of vaccine. So it's important that we recognize the signs and symptoms for those things. And these people are referred to their doctors, to hospital to get treated. Most of these people are recovering really fast. They've been admitted in hospital, they've been observed and treated, and we've seen that they've recovered really well. The data from Israel showed that if you get myocarditis, there's about 3 in 100,000 cases that will develop myocarditis after the COVID-19 vaccine. About 11 people in 100,000 will develop myocarditis if they get COVID-19 disease. So the risk of getting the disease and then myocarditis is much greater than when we vaccinate and you know, then get this rare side effect. We will pick up rare things because we are vaccinating millions of people. So when these weird and wonderful things, you know, start showing, then it's important so we can react on that and look into that. So I want you to be, you know, to take this on board when you have these conversations with families, especially now that we are vaccinating the younger age group, to explain to them it's a, you know, it's a side effect. We have seen it, it's rare, but we have seen it. But the risk of getting this disease is much greater when they get the disease itself. People with an existing cardiac condition are not regarded as a contraindication for the vaccine. So it's people, this is people who will develop it because of the vaccine. So if you already have a cardiac problem, you are still at a higher risk, especially with Delta circulating in the environment. They are at a higher risk of getting disease. So that's why we would still continue vaccinating them. Now, just getting back to anaphylaxis. So you cannot get the COVID vaccine if you had a previous COVID vaccine and you had an anaphylaxis to it, okay? If you have a history to any other component, so say for you are allergic to the specific fat we are using in there, then we will also most probably not vaccinate you. But there's a very small group of people who's got that specific allergy. Most of us do react to some of the components in the COVID-19 vaccine, to the sugar. It doesn't give us anaphylaxis, but it definitely goes and sits around my waist. So, but I don't think that's a contraindication. So the precaution, if you have a definite history of an allergic reaction to any vaccine or medication in the past, we would be cautious when we vaccinate you. We will still give you a vaccine, but we will definitely monitor you for 30 minutes, very close monitoring. So that's if you had a flu vaccine in the past, or you've taken antibiotics and you had an anaphylaxis or an immediate severe allergic reaction, we will still vaccinate you with COVID, but we will definitely monitor you. I think the rate of anaphylaxis to COVID-19 vaccine is about 4.5 per million people. So slightly increased rate than from our normal vaccines that we usually do. So pregnancy, based on how this vaccine works, we do not expect to have any risk to the pregnancy, the pregnant mom, the baby. And what we've seen with women who took up the vaccine while they were pregnant is that the antibodies does go through the placenta to mom. So when baby is born, our babies have some protection as well against COVID-19 disease. So we definitely recommend that pregnant women get the COVID-19 vaccine in any stage of their pregnancy. But this will still be your decision to make, especially now that we've got Delta in the environment. You know, it's something that we really need to think of. You know, it's not like a couple of months ago where we had no circulating disease. We do have it at the moment. So these people is at a higher risk as well of getting disease. It will not interfere with fertility in the future. There's no concerns with that at this stage. And we also will say that people who are trying to get pregnant, they don't need to, you know, postpone that, or we won't test people to see if they are pregnant before they get their vaccine. It's safe to go ahead. No need to stand down or wait like with a live vaccine like MMR, when you have to wait 4 weeks before we would like you to start working on becoming pregnant. Breastfeeding is also, there's a study out that shows that the breastfeeding antibodies are going through the breast milk to babies, giving babies some protection, so no safety concerns there as well. Women who has decided not to have the vaccine during their pregnancy, they can have the COVID-19 vaccine as soon as their babies are born, even if they're breastfeeding or not. Okay, so we do have a specific strategy in New Zealand, how we are vaccinating. And I think up in Northland, we do things slightly different. When they say age 60, we go age 50. So we really would like to look after our people up here, our most vulnerable people up here as well. Very important to remember that our vaccines, nobody is forced to have a vaccine, and nobody should pay for a COVID-19 vaccine. It's free for anybody in New Zealand. It doesn't matter whether you are a citizen, a resident, an overstayer. We just want everybody to get the vaccine. So as long as you are over the age of 12, you can have your vaccine, and you should not pay for it. So this was a slide that I've put up. Why do I want to get the vaccine? What does it mean for me? So personally, it means that I'm protected. I will get less sick, and even better, I might not even get the disease. But if I get sick, I will not be able to be sick for much longer than what it needs to be. And I will stop spreading it because most probably I won't sneeze, I won't cough, etc. And in that way, I can look after my family, my whānau, my community. If we don't have circulating disease, then we don't have to be in lockdown. We are in lockdown at the moment. And that's because we've got circulating disease. So this is the way we are looking after ourselves and our community. As soon as we can get on top of this virus, you know, we can start thinking of traveling again. We can go to our families, our vulnerable elderly people in the facilities, the hospitals, etc. We can get our loved ones to come and visit us again here in New Zealand, something that most of us are looking forward to. And that's just another thing that I've picked up when we are vaccinating in the centers. You know, when you ask people, why are you taking this vaccine? The answers are, I'm taking this for my children. I'm taking it for my grandchildren, for my mokopuna, to make sure that they are safe, for them to get back to a world where things are, you know, almost normal, where we don't have to walk around with masks, where we can celebrate birthdays together, when we can, you know, spend time together when we've got somebody who passed away. That's why I take this vaccine, not for me, but for them. I take this vaccine because I know it's not going to protect me from getting the disease, but it's going to, you know, we can reduce the spread of it. That's why I take this vaccine. The understanding of our people out there is phenomenal. I love it. So Liz has gone through some stats with you as well of how many doses. I just looked at these stats last night. So they usually, you know, put down how many vaccines we do per day, etc., etc. So things are looking really, really well. So we've the total doses administered, and this was oh no, I'm sorry, I'm going. Let me just go to the previous slide. Previous. So in total, we've vaccinated or given more than 3.3 million doses of vaccine. That's first and second doses. That's amazing. That's amazing work. And even up here, you know, Liz showed us the stats. It's amazing. We are doing so well up here in Northland with our vaccines. We, you know, we are 110%, not just 100%. We are doing more than what people were expecting us to do. So well done for everybody who's doing their bits on this as well. And even just the talks around this, it's really good. Now, just a little bit of information about the CIR. So the COVID-19 Immunisation Register, or CIR, is a register that's, that the ministry has started for us, where we can put down people who received their vaccines. It just gives us a good idea of who's had their vaccines going forward. So this system does send out the vaccines that patients receive to their GPs, if they've got a GP registered, so the GPs get confirmation of who had their COVID vaccines. So this will also be the forerunner for the new, the National Immunisation Register. So this is the first step going forward to the NIR. So everybody in New Zealand who gets a COVID-19 vaccine will be registered on the CIR, so we can know that they had their vaccines. And before you're vaccinated, when you do your training, you will learn how to work with the CIR. So you can enter those vaccines if you've given those. Now, just another thing that's very important when we are sharing information, it's really important that we get it from trusted places. So on the IMAC website, immune.org.nz, that's our Immunisation Advisory Centre's website. We have a COVID-19 page as well, covid.immune.org.nz. All this information is on there. Go and have a look on our website. There's heaps of webinars, videos. If some of you have done the COVID-19 training, but you know, say you did it earlier in the year, I do urge you to go and have a look. There's some updates. Things change so fast in the COVID-19 world that it's sometimes hard to get, you know, to hold up to think what's the new advice on these things. So familiarize yourself with the most up-to-date information and the resources. Make sure that you know where to go and find some of these resources. And as you see, there's a majority of languages up here, a variety of them, where you can, you know, get help and advice in other languages that we can share with our families and friends and patients. And this is my contact details. So if you need any advice or you just want to run something through, this is my email address, rita.miller@auckland, and my contact number. And just another thing that I want to make sure that you are aware of, the 0800 IMAC number, the 0800 Immune. We are running our service now Mondays to Sundays from 8 till 8. So we are there 12 hours a day for anybody who's got questions specifically to the COVID-19 vaccine as health professionals. So if you are running clinics over a weekend or 7 o'clock at night still, and you've got a COVID-related question, please give us a call. We're there to answer your calls and to help you through this as much as we can. Thank you. That's all from me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rita. So I'll just give people a minute. If you'd like to ask Rita a question, please do so, and then I'll pass over to Pam Armstrong. If everybody's all good, but you're again welcome to ask questions, and we'll send the presentation out too for your background information. So Maureen, Pam, welcome.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to get up your presentation, one moment. Sorry, one moment. It won't be long. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, nearly there for you. And
Oops.
there you go. There you go. Thank you.
Are you putting it on the first slide? Or was it on the first slide? Just while Liz gets up the first slide, yeah, just to introduce and say he mihine nui kia koutou katoa. Thank you for attending this presentation today. This is the last part of our presentation. It's a short part, but we've covered a lot of information today, and this last part is like, all right, so you've got the information now, how might you communicate that with whānau, and especially when some of those conversations become tricky and it's clear that some people are ambivalent or resistant to taking on board the information. So I want to talk a little bit about motivational interviewing. What is showing on your screen, Liz?
Yeah, I'm just now on the second slide, which is motivational interviewing. Can someone else confirm you can see that?
No, we've just got about 8 slides.
8 slides.
Oh, I beg your pardon. One moment.
So motivational interviewing, I think many of you would be familiar with that, but it's an approach for communicating with people, especially when they're unsure about making a decision, making a change, or they've got some ambivalence. And that is really, really common in the situation with COVID. There's those who are already set, you know, they're like, yeah, I'm determined, I know what I'm going to do. And they make they already made the decision, they're going to come in and have the vaccination, or they're going to those different strategies, the kaupapa that Koha was talking about. You know, they're clear about these are good prevention strategies I'm going to use, washing my hands, sneezing into my elbow, all of those things. Then there are those who they've heard a lot of the noise out there, and they're like perhaps even fearful, but anxious about, no, I'm not sure that that's the best decision for me to get a vaccination. So this is when this type of approach, motivational interviewing, is good for those who are not sure or perhaps resistant to to making that decision. Oh, Liz, there's another slide up now on the screen.
It's doing its own thing. There we go.
It's doing its own thing.
What have we got there, mate? What have we got there at the moment?
It says our values, and it looks like,
oh goodness me, I'll just stop again. I beg your pardon, team, just bear with me. I'll give this another go.
It's all right, because there's about 2 main slides, and I'll just talk about some of the other things while we're going, and then we'll get to the main slides, which is the techniques of good communication skills when we're working with whānau. So for many of you, this will be like a recap on motivational interviewing. But the thing is that all of us at some point in time experience ambivalence about making a decision about something. And so recognizing that some of the whānau that you'll be working with are going to be ambivalent, like they'll be thinking, shall I, shan't I? Oh, my friend says this, my whānau says this, but I heard this. You know, so they're at that point. The, I guess, the strategy for yourself is to just tip that scale and help them see the pros and cons. And remembering what Koha had said, is that at the end of the day, whānau are the experts in their own hauora well-being, and that so they do have the ability to make the decisions in their best interest. And it's for us to give them informed information. And so one of the ways we do that, I guess, is we talk about mana enhancing practice. So you would have all heard that term. And a big part of it is communication, is how we go about doing it. Like if we're friendly, respectful, warm and inviting, people are more likely to feel, gee, she's lovely, or he's worth listening to. So that whole engagement process, as we know, you know, if we can get off to a good start with people and something, you know, maybe for many Māori whānau, the whiti korero starts when we say things like, no he koe, where are you from, Mataara, where are you from, Whaia? And we just get that korero going, so people start to feel comfortable in that initial engagement. And then it's about giving good information. And if we don't know what we're talking about, then it's going to be difficult to be able to, you know, invite whānau to consider the information that you're giving them. So first of all, we need to know the information. So, all right, I want to get to the main slides of today, which is the process of motivational interviewing. And there are, just a moment, I'll bring my screen up.
We've still got nothing, have we?
No, we've still got all the mains, the main slides, Liz.
Oh, I'm
shall
sorry.
I try? Shall you take yours off and I try share?
Yes, thank you very much.
I
Get out
haven't
of there.
tried it on. Let me see. Okay. All right. I'll share screen and see how we go. Let's see what happens.
Well done, thank you.
Is that showing?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, let me just bring up this, we're on to, here we go. Okay, and that's showing principles of MI? Oops. All right.
Hi.
Liz, is that screen showing principles of MI?
Yes, thank you now. Yep.
Okay, all right, so there's two slides I really want to focus on for this brief presentation, and these are the principles. So we remember that by using the acronym READS. So R is stands for roll with resistance. Now, when we're talking with people, we recognize resistance straight away when they say things like, no, I heard about that lady who died. I'm really not happy to hear how unsafe that is. Straight away, you can tell, oops, there's resistance, right? And this is important to recognize, that there is going to be resistance when people have got anxiety or misinformation. So what we need to do is just roll with that resistance. And how might we do that? All right, so it's not by saying, no, that's a lot of rubbish. You don't want to listen to that. You can say things like, yes, I have heard that, but did you know, right? Did you know that in actual fact, and this is where we bring on board some of the information that Rita has told us. So we don't make people wrong, we just roll with that resistance. The second one is E for express empathy. And so it's like, that must be, they might say, you know, I know somebody who got a really bad reaction after they had the vaccination, and I don't want something like that happening to me. Okay, so then you would express empathy back to them for that. Oh, that I know that can happen, and that's not so good. But it is common. What I do understand is that it's your system that's fighting off, and many people will get reactions. It's very common. So you're expressing empathy with them. Then the next one is developing discrepancy. So what this is about, developing discrepancy, is somebody might have said to you, you know, it's not for me. I don't want to get vaccinated, but I've come in here today. I brought my daughter in because she wants to make sure that my mokos are kept safe. So she's going to do that. So you see, on one hand, he's saying he's brought his daughter in because he's supporting the fact that she wants to keep the mokopuna safe. But on the other hand, he doesn't want to get it done. So you're able to just present, when you develop discrepancy, you say things like, oh, okay, so on one hand, it sounds like it's really important for your daughter to keep the mokos safe. And on the other hand, you're thinking, no, you won't get that done. And so you can just pose that, and he starts to think, oh, okay, well, yeah, I want to do this, but on the other hand, I'm saying this. And sometimes that's all you need to do, is just develop that discrepancy, or ask them to tell you a bit more about that. You know, okay, you want to protect your mokopuna, but on the other hand, you don't want to get yours done. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? So you're developing that discrepancy. And then sometimes people say, oh, no, maybe I will. The last one is S, for support self-efficacy. So when people are unsure about something, they like saying, I'd like to, but you want to support it, and you can say things like, you know what, you are the expert in your whānau, in your own well-being, and you're the one best placed to make that decision. I can give you some information that will be useful and for you to have a think about. So you're just supporting, that that individual or that whānau, that they can make the best decisions in their best interests, whatever that might be. But you've got some really useful information that might help inform that decision. So that's supporting self-efficacy. All right, so that's a simple way to remember the principles, those 4 principles, and we just think of REDS, roll with resistance, express empathy, develop discrepancy, and support self-efficacy. Now this next one here, oh, do's and don'ts. Okay, now I'm just going to jump past that one and go straight to the next 4 key communication skills. So those were 4 principles, the REDS. This is, remember this one by the acronym OARS. So OARS stands for O, open-ended questions. Now, if we want communication to flow when we're talking with people, it's best to start off with open-ended questions, right? And 50-50 korero is always, it's the same thing, it flows. 50-50 korero is when you've got the korero and it's flowing, and the best way to start that out is ask a question, right? Open-ended questions. So when we do this, when we ask open-ended questions, it helps build a build like a collaborative relationship where we're learning more about what their concerns are with this, and yeah, and then you move on to affirming. So A is for affirming. So sometimes if someone's had a bad day, it's difficult to affirm anything because, you know, they're not very, the way they relate to us might be rude. It might even be disrespectful. And we're thinking to ourselves, gee, I've tried my open-ended questions, and this next one is to affirm them, and I'm not sure what to affirm them about, but everybody's got strengths, and it might be difficult in the conversation to think, what am I going to affirm them with? But the fact that they came in and they're hearing some information, you could affirm them with that, is that you could say, well, I just want to acknowledge you for coming in today, you know, for taking that time to come in today. And they might say, yeah, well, I'm still not getting the vaccination, you can say, you know, that's fine, because the decision lies with you. You are the expert when it comes to your own well-being. But if I could just give you a little bit of information, can I do that? Right? So all of that at the same time is your body language is congruent. You know, you ain't got a scowl on your face, or you're being respectful to them, despite how they may be in return to you. And so the next one is R for reflective listening. So we always want to be able to listen to people, but reflective listening is like that step further. You're hearing what they're saying and you're able to reflect back to them, right? So it could be repeating what they've said, but repeating it in your own words. Because what that does, when somebody hears what they've said, and you've repeated it back to them in your words, straight away they think, oh, she's listening to me, or he's listening to me. And so that will help with the conversation, right? Just to listen well and reflect back to them. And it might be like before we talked about, you know, in REDS, express empathy. It might be, oh, that must be very difficult for you during this time. You know, maybe they're talking about how difficult it is to be in a bubble on their own, and they've just come out for this one visit to find out about the vaccination. The way you respond to them through your listening is going to make a difference. And the last one is S for summarizing. And so even if it's been a short conversation or a long conversation, you complete that by summarizing what they've said, using your reflective listening, right? And you just give a good summary of what that's been about, that whole conversation that you've had. You summarize that and you thank them. You thank them for their time. Now, I know this might sound a little bit basic, but this is what this whole presentation is about, really, is returning to the basics, Hoki ki tūāpapa, right? And so if nothing else, that individual or that whānau who have come in today and had that korero with you, right? Even if they decided that, no, not today, they're not going to get a vaccination, that's fine, because what they have experienced today is having a conversation that is mana enhancing, because you have been respectful to them, you've been listened, they'll feel they've been listened to. And here's the thing, they may or may not remember your name, but they'll remember the place that they went to. So if they went to the doctor's surgery, the practice clinic, maybe they went to one of the drive-throughs, wherever it is that they went and they had the conversation with you, they're going to say, man, that place that was really good. They were so nice there. And the woman I spoke to, she was wonderful, right? And I myself went the other day, I took my mother in and we went to Otangere, and they had a drive-through there, and there were quite a few cars and that parked, and but at each kind of stop point, they're direct. As I come in, there was this guy, and he says, "Kia ora." He says, "Head over there to that guy with the visor jacket on. Drive over there." So we drove over there. When we got in that queue in the car, the next one, they greeted us really warmly, asked us how was our day, how were we feeling, and then they says, "Look, it won't be long. Just park up here, and we'll let you know when to move to the next spot." And at every spot that we moved to, people greeted us warmly, told us what to expect. And then when we finally got to the last spot where the nurse came up to us and took information from us, she explained everything really clearly. And well, she probably just did this naturally. She asked an open-ended question. She acknowledged us and affirmed us for coming along and attending that day. She asked us if we had any concerns, and she reflected. She used reflective listening, and then she did a quick summary and then told us, just wait for a couple of minutes and she'll be back. And, you know, I went away from that. Actually, I took a photo and I posted it up, and I says, what a positive experience it was and what wonderful people they were. So it was just simple korero, but they applied the reds and the ors, those principles of good communication and that. So, you know, if nothing else, people are going to go away feeling that they've had, you know, well, that just from meeting you, it's been an uplifting experience, a mana enhancing experience. So I can assure you, if you just apply those, think of the reds and the ors, then people are going to go away. They may or may not have had the vaccination, but they will be informed because you offered them information, and you did it in such a way that they're likely to think about that in a positive way. So I hope this short presentation has been useful to you. Liz, I'm going to hand back to Liz, and if you do want a copy of the presentation, I'm sure she can make that available to you. So thank you. I'll take this off sharing and hand back to Liz.
Tēnā koe, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here today, and we really do hope that you have found it useful and informative. We have a gift. Oh, how can I? There we go. So hold on, I'll get rid of my background so I can show you. So we have some resources that we are able to share with you. We have a kitty bag, and in the kitty bag we have an information booklet about the program of work. Can we see? And we also have the card for ors and reds. So that's a really good resource for you to take home with you. And because we want to look after your well-being, we have some lovely ronga, some soap, and some balm and some hand wash. So we will have your contact details. We have opportunity to get that to you as soon as we can. We'll also email out an evaluation form. We really do appreciate your feedback. We're keen to learn how we can do things better, differently, and if there were elements that you really did appreciate. So I'd just like to open the floor to see if anybody wishes to make a comment, and otherwise I'll leave you for your day, and thank you so much for joining us. Ka kite. I hope you have a fabulous day, everybody, and thank you so much for being here today. Kia ora.
Ka kite.
Thank you.